This series features prominent executives from the IT industry talking about the as a service market, innovation, leadership, and the marketplace. And certainly, we have a prominent guest today in Ingram Micro's Senior Vice President and Country Chief Executive for Canada, Bill Brandel. Bill has been at Ingram Micro for 4 years now, and I'll be sure to ask him if he's looking for another 4-year term, if he's interested. But in those 4 years, he's bolstered dramatically the distributor's relevance in mobility, security, and the cloud. Please welcome Bill Brandel.
Well, thank you very much. You're too kind with the introduction, my friend. It's been an amazing 4 years in Canada. You know, I think when I look back at my career, and it's been, as you know, 23 years at Ingram Micro.
That's right.
The 4 years in Canada, I believe, have been the opportunity to just learn and grow. Mm-hmm. I grew up through Ingram Micro, right? I started as an entry-level sales rep and worked my way through a variety of positions, always out of the Buffalo office, as that was our largest headquarters on the U.S. side. And, nothing can prepare you for moving to a new country and working with an entirely different set of customers and vendors. And although the names are the same, everything is very, very different. And I have to say, this has been the most rewarding experience in my career. And as I said, I have learned more in the last 4 years than I learned in my first 19 years altogether.
Amazing. Well, I want to get into that experience because I think, Bill, you are in a very unique position in the whole entire channel ecosystem, because as the leader of Ingram Micro, one of the top distributors in the world and in Canada, you deal with a vast amount of vendor partners and thousands upon thousands of channel partners. So I think your perspective is really, really valuable here. And I want to ask you, first off, about the COVID-19 lockdown. I thought Ingram was really proactive in developing the Kickstart program to get that financing in place, because I know a lot of channel partners were really worried about, what was coming up next. Tell me about the program details and why you wanted to go out right from the gate with that.
No, thank you. And, so working with the team out of our corporate headquarters, so Kickstart originally started out as a US-based kind of a program, right?
Right.
We then, of course, like to bring things into Canada, and because we really are completely isolated and we kind of run our own business here in Canada,
right,
we take the best practices and then we Canadianize them, for a lack of a better term.
Yeah.
So for us, it's really, we call it future funds. So Kickstart in Canada is really future funds, and it was important for us to come out with a program because we could see right away that this wasn't going to be a quick thing that was just going to pass through the market.
Right.
This was going to leave a long-lasting impact. And, I think one of the biggest challenges companies are having are really managing their working capital, right? So if you take a look at the industry, Paulo, as you know, many companies are making the transition from traditional project-based business where it was a buy-sell relationship, and they're moving to a managed service or an as-a-service or consumption-based model. And those models are very different. They put much more strain on a company's working capital, as many companies have to go out and purchase the hardware up front in order to lease it back or to sell it back to their customers on an annuity type of a setup. So I think understanding that companies were already dealing with a transformation in how they did business, and now with COVID and companies completely shutting down, this was only going to compound some of those challenges that many of our partners were faced with. So it was important for Ingram to come out with a way to help our partners manage through this pandemic and get through to the other side as healthy as humanly possible.
Okay, so I got a three-part question for you
Sure.
on the lockdown. So we've been around a little over 100 days into the lockdown here in Canada. Number one, do you see any light at the end of the tunnel? Number two, has the channel adapted, in your view, and responded well to the lockdown? And three, what are any lessons learned from this experience? And have you seen any sort of unique business strategies come out of the COVID-19 lockdown? So let's take the first one, light at the end of the tunnel.
Okay, you know me. We've worked together for all 4 years. I think you were
Yeah,
the first people I met
that's right.
when I just started my role, and so I think you know me by now. I'm the eternal optimist, right?
Mhm.
So yes, I see light at the end of the tunnel, and I see it for a couple of different reasons. I think the thing is it's everything you're hearing right now, and every news release, and is that things are getting better, right?
Okay.
So if you look at Quebec, if you look at BC, Quebec is already open. They're already starting to get back to what we will see what the new normal is going to look like.
Yeah, it's a new normal. Yeah, for
And
sure.
BC is definitely ahead of the curve, right?
Mhm.
I think in Ontario we saw a much more conservative approach, and I think probably because of the density of the population in Toronto and in Mississauga and some of the areas where we know we have heavy concentration of people where it is a little more challenging to get back to some normal, so to speak.
Right.
So I think that, to me, I was very encouraged when Quebec opened back up. So it started that process, and I've been in close touch with Bert, who manages our Montreal office, and he's been giving me really good feedback on how things are progressing out there. So I look at that as the light at the end of the tunnel. Seeing that other provinces are opening up, they're thriving, it's working. I'm very, very encouraged. And I think it's just a matter of time before Toronto and Ontario is able to get back to business and things are returned to some semblance of normal.
Okay, so how do you feel the channel has adapted?
This has been unprecedented, as you've heard said many times. And I think this group of partners has responded in a way that I don't think anybody was really prepared for. I will have to come clean. In the early days, I panicked. And I thought this was going to be terrible, right? We're shutting the office down. How are we going to do business? How is this going to impact our customers? How is this going to impact our vendors? I mean, we knew that we were looking at potential supply chain issues. There were just challenges along the way that we just looked like it was overwhelming and we were never going to be able to get through it. Paulo, I will tell you that this market, this industry, this group of partners and vendors have risen to the challenge and have actually done an amazing job. I can speak on behalf of Ingram. We've had a very strong performance throughout this entire pandemic, and a lot of that is because of the ingenuity and the creativity of our customer base, right? I think, as you know, retail is a big part of our business in Canada, right?
Yep.
The Canadian market is retail centric, and I think the retailers did an amazing job of kind of converting. They saw that they were going to have to shut down, and they completely moved to an e-tail model, which has just really helped them weather the storm. And you'll hear me say this time and time again. I think when this is all said and done, we are going to be better as a result of all of this, because I think we've learned a ton. We have new ways of doing things that I think are going to stay with us long after COVID-19 is a thing of the past.
So, any lessons learned or any unique business strategies that you saw come out of the lockdown?
Well, I mean, for me, the lessons learned were you absolutely can take a company whose culture was built on office-based existence
Yeah.
and move them to a remote work environment and have success. So that was kind of learning number one. Learning number two was seeing how quickly partners were able to embrace technology as a way of bridging that gap, right? Helping companies stay connected and stay transacting, right? That was just amazing. We saw a lot of things happen where the remote worker became the mantra, right? For all of Q2, it was really, let's build a solution for the remote worker. So we saw the adoption of cloud services, infrastructure as a service. We saw a lot of the Microsoft and the, AWS products really start to explode. And I think it's a result of the partners really embracing that technology, quickly learning all of the advantages of being able to deploy it remotely, and then helping their customers kind of bring it on board and change the way they're doing things.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you a question about that. That's definitely been one of the hottest trends in the lockdown, excuse me, that the rise of the remote worker. How do you think it's going to evolve after we get back to whatever the new normal is, the remote worker?
Paulo, I'll tell you, I was in the camp, being 23 years at A company like Ingram,
Right.
where we were very office centric, you can never take the place of those impromptu meetings, being able to walk down the hall and grab somebody when you need help. And when you're trying to solve complex issues for partners, having everyone easily accessible and available is key, right?
Right.
But I think if you really look at it, that was really before the evolution and the technology really getting to the level it's at today. So if you even look at, so we're we are on the Microsoft platform, and Teams is kind of how we went remote, right?
Yep.
And I think from the day we closed our office in April, in just a few weeks, how quickly Microsoft responded to this, the need for Teams to be enhanced in order to be competitive with some of the other platforms that were out there. The technology adoption was number one. The evolution has been number two. And I think, to your point, individuals who grew up in an office could embrace this technology and be able to conduct business in a face-to-face environment, I think really helped us. Because if you think of how the remote worker was, let's even go back to last year, okay? If you had a work remote individual, oftentimes you'd be on the phone with them on a conference call, and they'd say, hang on a minute, as you heard them put the phone down, and then they would tee off, and then they would come back, and if luckily the tee shot was good, they didn't have to yell for and totally give it away. But oftentimes, you knew you had distractions, and because everything was done on the phone, people would be tempted to let those distractions kind of play a role in their work, right, as they tried to balance everything. And that often led to poor connectivity, poor call quality, calls getting dropped, people breaking in and out, and just the quality of the meetings were not there. So if you look at a meeting today, and you can have, 9, 10, 12 people on your screen and really feel like you're there. Like, I truly feel like you and I are having this conversation in an office. It just improves that remote worker capability. And it also helps you with the quality of the contact or the connection, the quality of the content, because you're able to share documents and be able to give visuals. So I do believe that as COVID came in, none of us were prepared for this, and it came in unannounced, and it just kind of swept in and just shut everything down. If it weren't for the technology and us being able to quickly respond by leveraging the technology, I think we would have had a much more difficult time if it were even just a year ago, when technology wasn't quite where it is today.
So I want to ask you a leadership question. So you've been a leader for a long time and very recognized in this industry. What's been your style during a time of crisis?
The thing that you learn quickly is you have to, as a leader, you have to surround yourself with the people that you can trust. Okay, so you have to empower your leaders around you, and you have to have a great deal of trust in order to make sure that everyone understands what the goals are, what the objectives are that we're trying to achieve. Everyone's bought into what the vision is, and then you just have to give them the autonomy to go get it done and trust that they're doing the right thing. And I think, what we found, and I'll tell you, coming from the corporate office, when we first went remote, we had meetings every single day. So we would start the morning with a Teams meeting, and every day we would regroup and say, what's going on? And I think it was just because it was all new and no one really knew what to do with themselves, right? Well, then you got inundated, and everybody and their brother started planning meetings. And so you're meeting it was 7 days a week. And then sometimes it was 15-hour days where you were on meetings because people knew you were captive and they could get you. So, I had customers calling me on Saturday. I'm trying to play board games with my family, and I'm putting out customer issues. Granted, these issues were serious, right? We were taking care of first responders, healthcare companies, and keeping them up and running. But I think it made the quality of life a little challenging. And I think it was really people's need to feel like they were doing something. And they wanted to be counted. Here I'm working. Shortly after kind of getting things kicked off and getting everyone working from home, being able to pull back on those meetings, empower your teams to go do what you know they have to do or what they know they have to do, trusting that they're getting it done and only meeting when you have to, really help to change the quality of our leadership team, because they found they had more time when they didn't feel like, because think of the meeting cascades. I would have a daily meeting. then they would go meet with their teams daily, and then those teams are, and so now you have this cascade effect where you just have hundreds of meetings.
Yeah.
And I think being able to empower people to go do their job, trust that they're doing what you're asking them to do, and really giving them the autonomy to get it done in their, in a way that they know how it's going to be effective.
Right.
I think that's key. And I think the leaders that struggle with that are the ones that will struggle going forward. Just think of the possibility of where you're able to get, what access you will have to talent. And more importantly, how many people won't have to deal with the daily commute, right?
Yeah, I know.
I don't care.
Especially in Toronto.
It is a grind to get to the office. It's been so nice with no traffic. I got to be honest with you. I drive to the office just to do it because I can get there so fast.
Yeah. See what it was once like, maybe in the 50s.
Yeah.
I want to get your take on the monthly recurring revenue model. Do you believe it's the way that channel partners should be heading into? And how do you see the benefits for the as a service model? What have you seen so far?
That is a great question, Paulo. And I would tell you that absolutely that is the way of the world. It is not going away. This is not a fad. We've gone through a lot of iterations in this channel, right? I mean, you've been around for a long time. And as I said earlier, right, as project-based business is really kind of a thing of the past. And more companies are looking to bring technology in that is going to not only just improve their overall productivity, but it improves the quality of the workplace. It improves the overall customer experience. And I think you're really starting to see this trend of customer experience being the number one motivation of companies. And then many times I've heard it said that customer experience is going to be the new brand, right? It's going to be your brand. So when you take that into account, you start looking at how technology is being delivered. There's almost no opportunity in the long haul to stick strictly to project-based business where you're going to go sell, update a server room, and you're going to give all the endpoints connectivity and then provide the security layer. And you're going to then allow companies to be able to transact in that fashion. The technology of the future is really going to be driven more by the lines of business owners who are going to be looking for the best possible way to service their customer community and give them the best possible experience. So again, that brand that you're trying to drive around the customer experience is what's going to keep that stickiness between you and your partner. So when you look at the recurring revenue model and you look at how technology's evolved from project-based to then, started to build out solutions that were kind of a hybrid. So you had on-prem and then you're connecting to hyperscale or to other cloud providers. I think the consumption game is going to be key. And so when you look at everything that we have been doing as an industry, and specifically at Ingram, how we're helping companies start to build that framework. As you're aware, we invested pretty significantly in a cloud marketplace that's fully automated.
Absolutely.
And the vision of that cloud marketplace is to then be able to add the hardware provided as a service. So you're putting the entire solution together and you're delivering a final product to your end customer on a monthly reoccurring revenue basis. And that's the way business is going to be done. And companies who do not make that shift will struggle. Even in the near term, when we get back through this pandemic, think of how many companies are going to be looking to reestablish their remote capabilities.
Oh,
think
for
of
sure.
the school systems, the hospitals, and some of these other areas where there's going to be massive investment to build up their infrastructure to support their customers, whether it be a student or whether it be a patient, as efficiently as possible, wherever.
Yeah. Well, I've been saying it's a Netflix world, but I want to ask you in general about broadline distribution and what role do you see it playing today and in the future, and how has Ingram evolved with its model, addressing what the channel and customers are asking for today in the future, specifically with digital transformation?
Thank you. That's a great question. And I would say that, again, having started back in 97, I think we would have been called one of the largest broadline distributors in the world, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Ingram Micro made its reputation on getting products to their customers faster than anyone else and having the largest array of products, right? So that was kind of what we really were focused on back in 97. And I think, and before that, right? So I think really with the evolution of technology, Ingram has been on a mission for, and I would say probably 15 years now, because if I go all the way back to when we first started experimenting with the cloud, I think that was right around the 15-year mark. What we did is we realized that this industry was evolving at an alarming rate. And what we were seeing is more and more people were going to move to cloud-based products, consumption-based products, and then ultimately to an as-a-service. So if you look at our strategy, I would tell you that we typically don't refer to ourselves as a broadline distributor any longer, because you'll hear us talk about technology solutions provider, because we believe that our value-added services have grown to a point where we really are able to help partners as they build out capabilities in any area of the industry, right? So if you look at any technology provider that sells through the channel, we're able to help our partners engage with those companies, learn those technologies, become competent, trained, and able to deliver those solutions, all through just their relationship with Ingram Micro on the traditional IT side. But then what we did is we went out and made that significant investment in the cloud, and we built the world's first fully automated cloud platform. And so Cloud Glue has truly proven its success when you look at the number of seats that we currently have today. So if you think about that, so now we already had the technology solutions piece where we had to grow our capabilities around helping companies in the advanced solutions area, because security was starting to become a big deal, networking, starting to deliver applications in a whole new way. Now you take a look at the cloud, and so that was the other big piece. And then and our third component, which is our CLS business, right? Or our customer lifecycle management business. So that was really all built to kind of give the IT provider of the future the ability to do everything that I just described on our previous conversation. We will now be able to take technology from any manufacturer product, bring it into our system, apply all of the necessary enhancements, be it configuration services and support, bundling, kitting, putting the entire solution together, layering in those cloud solutions, and then delivering that finished good to the end customer on behalf of our partners for them to do the install and implementation, or even leverage us if they need to. So they do that by our technology solutions group, building the bombs, helping them understand what technologies to put together, attaching it to the cloud marketplace, which then adds in all of those cloud and hybrid type solutions. And then through the CLS, or our customer lifecycle management team, to go deliver it directly out and provide the logistics support and a lot of the value-added service around configuration and ITAD. So it's the complete life cycle of technology, all delivered on a monthly annuity basis. And they're able to couple in and add in their services into this entire transaction. Wrap a bow around it with a financial solutions offering that offers partners the ability to give their customers one monthly payment for everything, all in one place. And I would say, I believe we're the only company today that can do that.
Well, it's definitely been a fascinating journey, Ingram's, journey to the cloud. Like you said, starting 15 years ago, how they sort of almost evolved almost a yearly basis, improving it, augmenting it, everything like that. But I pitched this off the top of the interview series that, we're going to talk about your 4-year term, but I want to ask it in a different way, if you don't mind. So you've been here 4 years. But the vast majority of your career has been in the U.S. How do you see both markets today?
It's interesting, Paulo. I think there is a misperception, that we have the same markets, that our markets are identical, right? I think I was guilty of that as well. The reason I got here was because I had worked very closely with Mark Snyder, who was the country leader before me. And he was my mentor, and he helped me through a lot of my development training and things that I was doing. And he gave me visibility into the Canadian market. And I used to think I was providing support to Canada, and I was a North American leader because I provided support to Mark. It wasn't until I got here that I realized how very little I was actually doing in the way of supporting Mark from a North American perspective.
Right.
And quite honestly, our markets are a little different. There's a lot of similarities. I mean, let's face it, the technology is a technology. Okay, if you're selling a Cisco server or a Cisco switch, in the US or Canada, it's doing the same thing. If you're selling a VMware product, it's virtualizing the exact same way.
Yeah.
The differences really come down to how we approach the business in Canada versus the US. And I think that's where you start to see a little bit of a change in thought process, right? So I think what I have learned, and the only way I could summarize it is, I think our partners do a really, really good job of investigating what technologies they're going to back. Okay, so I think the difference in the US, there's so many customers, so many people.
Yeah.
There's people throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah.
Okay, and they can afford to do that because of the vast size of that market, right? We're in Canada. We have a finite amount of resources. We don't typically have the same level to invest. So we have to be a little bit more conservative and really make sure we know what we're doing. But the thing that amazes me is when the Canadian market embraces something, the growth trajectory vastly outpaces the US. Where the US, you'll see it as it's learning and growing, it's kind of doing this, and it's moving up to the right. In Canada, companies standardize on something, and then all of a sudden it's off to the moon. And it's been an amazing thing to watch. And quite honestly, you have to really gear your business to be able to support that model, because you have to be able to respond quickly. Once the market has adopted technology, you have to be ready to provide support. And the cloud was a great example. Yeah. I think, coming in, I was under the impression we were going to be much farther ahead in the cloud space. But remember when I got here in 2016, there was no data centers in Canada. So data residency laws prevented you from really being able to take advantage of the cloud because you weren't going to tap into the US. So I think once Microsoft established a data center here and then AWS followed, I got to be honest with you, Paulo, the adoption in cloud in Canada has been insane. We have been one of the top performing theaters as subsidiaries of all of Ingram.
I want to ask you, we're about to wrap up, but I want to ask you about the Trustex Alliance. How has this group of channel partners impacted Ingram Micro in general and the marketplace, in your opinion?
That's a great question. We just had a invitational meeting, right, where we had the chapter together. We did our very first virtual, and I was asked to tell a story about Trustex, one of my fondest memories, and I actually used the memory of when I was on my tour with Mark Snyder as he was handing the torch to me. I have to tell you, the way that community bid him farewell, the gifts, just the overall sense of loss when he was leaving. But more importantly, how many of those companies grabbed me to the side and said, "Hey, buddy, you got some big shoes to fill. You better make sure we're important." I think that partnership, that commitment to the partnership is number one. That's kind of how it's changed me. And I think how I feel we've changed each other is it's a real sense of community and partnership. The other thing is when Trustex started, it was called VTN back in the day, and I was a sales rep at Ingram Micro. And I remember they came to us and said, "We're going to do this program where we bring all these resellers together, and they're going to work together, and they're going to become friends, and they're going to become partners." And we laughed. I'm thinking, how are you going to get competitors to become friends and work together? This is never going to work. We laughed, the water cooler talk. We were thinking that the guys running that were crazy. You guys don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I told the community this. I was never more happy to be wrong, because a visionary created this community because they had to be able to see that the need for partners to leverage each other's skill sets was going to become critical, right? And today, more than ever, we've already said it. When you start looking not only at cloud, just let's look even further. Let's look at IoT, AI, machine learning. Let's look at some of these other technologies where no one company is going to be able to be the end-to-end support for every aspect of a IoT solution.
Right.
It's going to take a village, as they say.
Yep.
And I think this community is equipped to provide that support cohesively, collectively, and I think creatively from everything that I've seen from this group. So I believe that this community is truly going to become a force when you start looking at all these technologies that are coming out to really connect us and improve our quality of life. It's going to take this community and each of their unique skills coupled together to deliver a comprehensive solution.
I couldn't agree more. They're an amazing community nationwide, top to bottom. Fantastic. And you know what a lot of people don't really notice about this group is that collectively they do something like but over $800 million, $850 million in business.
Yeah,
that's not chump change for sure. So Bill, before we sign off, anything you want to add that you felt that didn't cover in any of my questions? Consider this an open forum. You can talk about anything you want, even the Buffalo Bills, and my favorite receiver, Stephon Diggs, is now part of your team.
You know, here's what I would say. I think we are at the cusp of what I believe is going to be another industry-changing event, right? Yeah. When you really look at the impact COVID is going to have on what we do, how we work, how we live. Right. And I think that technology is the key to getting us through and really helping us realize what the new normal is going to be. Right. And all I would tell you is at Ingram, we are committed to not only working with the existing companies that are in our ecosystem today, but we are committed in trying to find and bring on the newest technologies that are breaking ground in some of the new areas that we discussed, to be able to help knit that together to an overall solution, and then layer in the services piece that we're adding on. And I think, through our partnership and the partnership of the Trustex community, being able to provide those services to help companies as they're doing the deployments of these new and highly complex technology opportunities. Right. Just know that if it doesn't exist today, all you have to do is pick up the phone and call Ingram Micro, and we will work together to make it a reality for tomorrow.
Okay, Bill, where can people follow you online or on social media?
So you always can find what we're doing at Ingram Micro at www.ingrammicro.ca. Yeah, we have a big LinkedIn page, a big Instagram page, and then obviously our website. I think if we put those three components in there, my friend, that's the best way to get on.
Okay, great. Well, there you have it from Bill Brandel, the country chief executive of Ingram Micro Canada. Thank you very much for your time and your insight today. Have a great Canada Day and also have a great Independence Day too. I'm sure you're going to celebrate both.
Absolutely. It's one of the benefits of being here, Paulo. I love it. You do the same, my friend.
All right, for sure. Well, that's it for me, Paulo Donley-Bletto, signing off for the Jolera interview series. See you next time.